coming.
Hello fellow YouTubers and welcome back to Disabled DM. I'm German D&D, and this will be our first monthly DMs panel. Today I have with me is Zach Lee, Princeton Wright, Mary Chris, and Andrew Armstrong, better known as Don Forgecast. So I'll give everyone a moment to introduce themselves, plug the channels. Perhaps tell a little bit about what systems you guys DM in, and so let's start up with Andrew.
Alright, well, hello everybody. I'm Disabled Andrew. I run the Dawn Forge associated social media whatnots. I'm mostly focused on fantasy gaming, with D&D and Pathfinder being the mainstay, but we're branching out into Star Wars and Shadowrun. Very excited to learn more about those and play those. Mostly a avenue for new players to come in, but also a lot of stuff for experienced game masters. Let me thank Yarn for inviting me. He was in one of my one-shots, and very enjoyable to play with him, so now I'm glad to talk about tabletop gaming here.
Awesome. Mary, you want to give a plug for your art channels? I think you might need to check your audio, maybe. I'm not having you.
Yeah, I don't hear anything.
I don't think she hears us.
Okay, but
she's on mute.
Yeah. Okay, well, while she's checking her audio, let's go to Princeton, and we can come back to Mary. So, Princeton, what systems do you DM in?
I don't really DM any standard system anymore because most of the people I play with around here aren't really that experienced, and like even myself, I'm not like overly experienced in a lot of systems, but I've been playing for the better part of maybe 4 or 5 years, and mostly I started DMing when started getting fed up with all the other people around here, because I haven't really dealt with any good DMs, and the ones that were pretty halfway decent, they ended up moving away or, moved to different systems.
Yeah,
and,
it can definitely be hard to find a good group. I think everyone
definitely
goes
in this
through
area.
that. Okay, Zach, how about you?
Well, this is going to sound... I'm going to date myself. I first learned how to play in the red box. Okay? Like, I'm much older than I look.
I got you beat. I started in first edition.
No, I'm talking about basic D&D.
Yeah.
Red box. Yeah, where elf was a class.
Yes, I remember those days.
Yeah. That was back in '86. I got to sit in on an on my friend's older brother's game because they needed a player. I played a thief, and I still have that character sheet to this day. I have played Star Wars, Die 6, Wizards of the
Awesome.
Coast, and the new system. I still love the D6 is the best system. I think I played Shadowrun since its inception. I found the books, and a friend of mine goes, "Hey, you know that's a role-playing game?" And at that point, it was on. Hold on one second, guys.
Oh, no problem. Awesome. So we got a couple different systems.
Yeah.
And I see
sorry, I'm
Mark
back.
had joined us.
Cool. As I was saying, if it's been mainstreamed, I've played it, and I've even tried out a couple Dragon Age games in where they refitted it to be D&D style. It was kind of weird.
Cool.
Like they did Keep on the Borderlands meets Dragon Age. That was literally the campaign.
Okay. Well, welcome, Mark. Glad you could make it.
Yeah, I was just running a little behind.
Oh, no
Glad
problem.
I'm.
We're just kind of introducing ourselves at the moment, telling a little bit about what kind of systems we've DM'd in. So, if you care to let our viewers know a little bit about you, feel free.
Yeah, so I've DM'd quite a few different games. I kind of started with second edition and D&D and the other editions. I pretty much DM'd every edition now except fifth. And now I play some other games too. I play some Powered by the Apocalypse games, and I've done some Shadowrun, and so yeah, GURPS, Rifts, all kind of stuff.
And maybe, did you figure out your audio?
Can you hear me now?
Yes, we can.
Okay. Hey, I'm Marcus, and I have yet to DM. So,
It's
but
coming.
at least I yet to DM an official game, I guess. I do lots with the kids that I watch, but nothing on
Millennials.
what Jaren does. So,
I
but
don't know if it's like
Awesome.
signal, like everybody keeps cutting out.
What is your Mary does a bunch of artwork, and she does some live Twitch streams as well. Sometimes
Yeah,
it's D&D,
those
sometimes
links
it's her drawing.
yeah, those links will be in the comments. So look for them there.
Awesome. So, Eston, you had a question we were chatting about right as we were gathering everyone up. Would you like to rephrase it and allow us to answer it for you?
Oh yeah. So, like I said before, I've always run into problems, and I've always heard people talking about, this system's this good, and that there's this problem. And one of you mentioned D6 Star Wars D&D. I played that with a buddy of mine a couple years ago, and it was pretty okay. And I kind of liked the D6. It was a little bit more simplified. There's a lot less stuff you had to keep track of, and it seemed, I don't know, it was a little bit more fun. But well, aside from that, my question is what systems has everybody played, and what problems did you find with those, and how do you think those problems can be fixed?
Okay.
What sort of aspects would you like to see in an RPG that might not necessarily have been done before or improved upon? That's basically it. Because, like I said, I'm currently developing a system that I hopefully plan on getting published. And if you guys like, I could send you a PDF of the core rules at some point.
Sure.
Yeah. Other than that, what systems have you guys played, and what problems have you encountered that you'd like to see fixed, and maybe see in another system? That's basically all I had to ask.
Okay. Well, myself, I mainly stick with is Dungeons and Dragons, and 'cause that's where I grew up on. I haven't really seen too many problems with them if you have a good DM and a good group. However, I did recently have a situation where I've been doing 5th edition for almost a year now, and I tried to go back to play in a 2nd edition game, and I just could not get into it. There was a lot of things from 5th edition that you couldn't do in previous editions, and such as having an orc with a 19 strength pick up a 40-pound gnome and throw him 25 feet. At the DM rule that you couldn't do that, according to the older edition mechanics. So to me, it kind of broke all the old editions for me by playing the new one and the freedom that you have in it.
Yeah, it seems like freedom and realism, I mean, as far as realism goes in a fantasy setting,
Yeah.
it seems like the freedom to do what you want and realism is the main problems I've encountered. So,
It looks like a new fighter has joined the match.
No, same fighter, different icon.
No, okay.
Well, I'll say this won't be as helpful, I suppose, in publishing and designing, though I do have some videos on my channel over the last week about how to publish and develop games from people in the industry who are doing it, so that might be helpful too. But I found that the main conflicts in tabletop gaming arise not because of the system or system being too complex or too simple or not having enough features. It is always and ever the group, and it always and ever the human people involved can make it great or make it a headache. And system, there's so many. There's so many out there. Some will work really well. I know players who loathe 5th edition because it's too simple. Other people who love Pathfinder or loathe it because it's too complex. Shadowrun intimidates me. Dungeon World is too simple. I mean, there's all sorts of finding your niche together, but the best thing I've found is finding that niche with other people who also have that same, we all love Pathfinder. Play that together.
Yeah.
The big problems arise when you are a role player focused and a optimizer focused and a mix of them focused, and all of this causes a mess.
Yes.
Yeah, I would definitely agree with Andrew that having a good group and a good DM that focus on the same things overrides the system itself. Because you can use any system and have a good time and homebrew whatever you need to homebrew. Whether it's simplify the rules, take something out, add something.
So let me yeah. One last piece, maybe this will be helpful. What I've found is not lacking necessarily, but not overtly displayed in many systems, is the encouragement and sense of group play. That could be a really welcomed addition, I would find, to, the mechanics might be a little clunky, but wow, we had such a great time because it really bonded us together. having that be a more present foundation for a system, the fact that you are playing with other people, and interactivity. We have inherent in the mechanics, encouraging someone else gives you a bonus, or role-playing with someone else gives you this. That kind of, as a fabric, could be a really welcome change.
Yeah, I actually had something to add in that too. Some of the games that I've been playing more recently, like Powered by the Apocalypse games, do reward that sort of role play and kind of push a focus in the gameplay sense to kind of pull you in. Kind of forces you to role play your strengths and weaknesses, which is sort of a thing that kind of gets a background treatment in some role playing games. And I see it more a tendency towards this in more modern role playing games, like to focus on the player and the character cohesive, to make that to make the fun, reward you for having fun in the game. As opposed to always the loot thing maybe isn't fun for you, but if the loot thing's fun for you, then you get experience for that. Or if the sneaking around thing is fun for you, you get experience for that, based on what you're trying to get out of the game.
Yeah.
So I think a game that rewards that.
The Palladium system has. It's like, yes, you defeated the monster. Everybody gets 1,000 experience points because it's the big baddie, but you actually get rewarded more for coming up with a plan, working together, trying a new skill, learning a new skill. It's more of a rounded experience point system than go slay a monster. You get its experience. Oh, you talk to the guards and convince them to let you through. Well, you're going to get some experience for that too, but not as much as punching them in the guts and running away. I know D&D and stuff like that, you can go back to the classic of, well, technically letting them through is defeating them. Yeah, you can do that. And that's how I play it, is if you get past the guards sneaking, talking, it's just equal to you somehow defeated them in your own mind. But still, it's generally, unless you decide that as a story bonus, you're going to give experience that's not in the system. And I've always hated that about certain role-playing games, like the guy who wants to be the crafty thinker has to go along with the big barbarian because the big barbarian's the only way you are both getting experience. And that's just something I've hated. The one thing I do kind of hate, though, in a lot of role-playing games is let's assign an arbitrary number to role-playing. Like, if you can come up with a plan, why do I need to roll? Why is there a system for rolling? Like, roll a die 20 and add your proficiency bonus with your charisma luck bonus when you're sitting there going, okay, guys, here's the plan. We do this, this, and this. Well, you got to roll it to convince the king. I always think that's like a redundancy. Of course the king's going to listen to you. He's paying you 1,000 gold to go save his daughter. It's the classic thing in like
games.
Go ahead.
I got a little lag.
Oh.
No. As I was saying the classic line of the best place to go look for adventures is the mercenaries that just wandered into the bar after getting a night of drunk buying weapons. Because vagabonds always make the greatest heroes.
Yeah. I actually, I understand completely. I have encountered problems. Like, I understand, like, it seems like there are too many, menial things that people want to focus on. And, another issue is, like, say, you're a seasoned adventurer, you've been doing this for so long, you don't need to roll a die to succeed at, some menial task. Whereas, you could end up, say, rolling a 1 and, critically fail,
Mm-hmm.
Say if you're trying to shoot your bow, you screw up. A lot of DMs I've encountered anyway seem like, some miraculous thing will happen, like arrow will launch straight down, pin you to the ground or something. I think stuff like that is kind of stupid. I focused on some stuff like that in my system. Kind of gets rid of the, I don't know, things like that seem to get in the way of the immersion of the game.
Not like games.
I understand you got to find a good combination of
I think a lot of the games
realism
that do that.
versus the the system itself, the rules have to work, but you also have like a role play aspect. It seems like finding the balance, in between kind of a pain in a lot of the things I've done.
Mm-hmm. I think the whole reason why they do that is there can't be rewards without a negative. That's the Gary Gygax still thing of, well, you can't go out and murder everyone and not suffer for something, and it's
I understand that.
some DMs just ignore it. Like you rolled a 1, you miss. Your arrow goes wide. It makes it so you can't, capture the arrow back. Something like that. I've never had a DM, and I've never DM'd an arrow where you shoot it, it hits the rock and bounces back and hits you in the face. I've seen DMs do that.
Yeah.
And in Pathfinder, they make a whole card set to screw with your players that way.
That sounds like a failure mentality too, though. That comes from some, misunderstandings. I think particularly with the transition from 3rd to 3.5, there was some misconceptions perhaps that kind of invaded the GMing world. I think with the idea of a 1 only being a miss or being a specific thing with those tables that we got, critical fumble tables and stuff like that. If you're an older GM, you know what I'm talking about. If you're a newer GM, you've probably seen them somewhere. So, yeah, I think
they were there since first edition, though.
Yeah, I think it really came to the forefront, though. I think with like the whole manuals on that.
Right.
So maybe we haven't heard from you. What would be something you would like to see done differently in a game system? Maybe something that you picked up on as a player that...
Oh, that's a really good question. Literally, as you guys are talking, the only thing that came to mind is just this nitpickiness of where in 3.5 they had this class, the Duskblade, and they kind of revamped it with the Eldritch Knight in 5e, so it's I don't know, that is literally the only thing that I noticed was a change that I didn't exactly like, but for the most part,
it was called the Moon Knight in 2nd. It was an Elven-only class.
Okay.
Same exact class. It is annoying.
But for the most part, I'd say that I don't know if there's much with the system that have any difficulties, but I can see differences from DM to DM, with how they use the system. For me, I've always kind of had this in my head that you got the rule books, but they're just kind of guidelines, and each DM just kind of pulls what they like and then tweaks something so it for them it creates more realism. And so in a way, it's if there's something that I'm not liking about how a session is going, it's usually not so much me going, well, the system sucks. It's, well, this DM, I don't really like how he presents it. And so...
But I think that is the system. I think a system that lets your GMs fail less would be a better system. Yeah. Right? So a system that really tells GMs or DMs, whatever you call yourself, tells them how to do their job effectively and the sorts of things that you can use to reward players for the kind of play you want. I think that's important. And I think I understand what you're saying. Sometimes GMs vary widely, and I think that's something sort of inherent in not being guided very well to what the game is trying to do a lot of times.
That is definitely something that could be added to a gaming system, is maybe some stuff with tips that we often find in YouTube videos or supplements, such as giving player agency, when is it okay for DMs to reward or the sandbox, stuff like that, as kind of worked into the system itself to give the DMs a good guideline to go by. I think it's something that is missing from a lot of systems.
Mhm.
I think you're right. I think that is probably what is needed more than anything is either as he said before, it's the group that causes the most problems.
Exactly.
There's a game called Teenagers from Outer Space. I don't know if any of you've ever heard of this game. You cannot die in it. Okay? It is basically, here's some stats just for stats. You have a wacky superpower, like you can turn any guy you see into a girl or vice versa. You know, it's comedic roleplay. I've had a fight break over how we use power in that game. And a guy left the game. Like, no, you won't let me use it this way, I'm leaving, bye. And I'm like, dude, it was a one-shot for fun. You know, just silly, teaching you basically how to roleplay. It's literally a group dynamic is, you can see, like, I have a friend of mine, I met him, as I posted before, I met him in scout camp when I was 12 years old. He is going to be at my wedding this year. I mean, we've been role-playing since scout camp.
So,
you know,
that's a pretty good lead into a discussion on what makes up a good group dynamic.
Could you say that one more time?
what makes a great group dynamic?
Okay.
I have to say, everybody knowing what they're doing is probably the most important part. I mean, I don't know how many times I've played in a group, you know, just as a player, and there's always that, like, couple people that, you know, want to do that just completely ruin the experience for everyone else. Like, they just run around as, like, a murder hobo, or maybe they don't necessarily know the rules, or even, like, people who are, like, a Nazi about the rules. That kind of ruins everything, for me at least.
Term murder hobo automatically, I don't know for others, it probably brings to mind D&D, right? Like,
Oh, definitely.
that's the game that rewards you for being a murder hobo.
Mm-hmm.
So that's why you get that. You get some people that want to come to that experience just to roleplay, and then you get others that are just interested in playing it as a game, you know, as it was designed, which I would say they're not doing it wrong. It's just...
They're not doing it well.
Right, and you, well, maybe not that, but maybe that they're doing it differently, so you can reward them in other ways, right? So that they are also engaged. You know, if everyone has to kill something to get experience, then everyone's going to be trying to, at some point, either kill something, or maybe they're just trying to stop the other people from killing people, and they hope to get experience from that, and, you know, so yeah, so you can reward players, well, depending on the game.
So, Andrew, I know you've done some videos, and you often talk about it being a group game. And what's some qualities of players that you look for in your session and that make a good group dynamic for you?
Well, it's turned out, and from going full time this year, I've been able to get a lot more gaming in.
I've been waiting.
A full-time gamer, and I get lots of messages of pretty much every week. I have at least 10, 20 messages. My group sucks, or why can't they roleplay more, or why can't they do this, that, and the other thing? And I think like Preston, is it? Beetle Beardman? Preston? Is that your name? Or Zach?
Me? Or Mark?
Mark. Neither. Okay. So,
You
like
got failed on your swatch.
Fail. Alright, so like Mark was saying, it's not a wrong or right way to play. It's a wrong or right way to play with these people. This group of people has a huge amount of enjoyment that they get from optimizing and crunching the numbers. They don't want to role play. I've encountered these people who are playing a game and they say, I have a plus 18 to intimidate. I intimidate him. and I ask him, all right, what do you say? And he says, I intimidate him. And in my brain, that's not fun. But in his brain, that's exactly how this is supposed to work. That's what my numbers are. And the key to the group is not anything other than we are all here for the same reason to get the same thing out of this. And you're going to go astray when, if you want to get out of it a combat simulator, and someone else wants to get out of it an MMO RPG experience, and someone else wants to get out of it fun, chatty with my friends, making jokes. And other people want deep, serious role-play immersion, and other people want realistic medieval life simulator. The only and the number one most important thing is not system, it's not skill, it's not adventure design, it's conversations about what we want out of this experience. And coming to that first, that is where all the good gaming is going to happen, because you're with the right people.
Another thing I found kind of helps me, even in a one-shot, I do a very short sessions ever for one-shots, and campaigns I make it a little bit longer. And part of it is, first couple minutes, if there's someone I don't know that I haven't gamed with previously, I just sit and talk with them and kind of get a feel for their personality and how they kind of act. And I've found a lot of times that really taking that little bit of time ahead of time really helps solidify the group experience.
A lot of steps you can make to solidify and communicate those expectations. Session zeros work very well for that. I think also overcoming the fear that, well, it's my cousin, so I have to play with him, even though I absolutely loathe every minute of it. You don't have to do it. Don't sit through 4 hours just suffering. Have a conversation, see if you can't come to some resolution of contrasting styles, and if you can't, we have the internet, we have multiple people. Find the game with the group that fits you best in the style that you've really discovered that you love. That's where it all happens. If you don't do that, you're just going to keep being disappointed, getting into fights, keep arguing over rules and powers and whatnot, and no one's gonna have good. No one's gonna have fun.
So are there any other thoughts on this?
Yeah. Well, for me, everybody seems like everything everybody's saying is pretty helpful.
Awesome.
Useful information. Yeah.
I think there's something to be said about what you're saying, though, as far as having that open discussion with your prospective players about what they want, and also about what you want, so that you can see that there's common ground there before you really get into the game. And then also,
it definitely has to go both ways. It's not just from the players, but the DM saying what he expects as well.
Ah, yes, the classic 20 by 20 room filled with underdoors is always a fun thing to throw at your role-playing team.
I would add, I think we as a gaming society need to be a bit less critical and harsh about these different styles, and if it's not yours, then don't play with those people. They don't have to change. And if there's a group of 5 people who love storytelling, and you hate it, and you just want to level up your character, you're the one who needs to go find another group. I mean, don't berate the other people for not playing what you wanted. You're in the wrong group. In the right group for you.
Exactly, and there's so many groups out there. There's no way you can't find a group that plays your same style. It may be hard to get them all together, although I found online is working wonders for getting groups together.
I know I've been guilty of mocking the I want to play Sephiroth Doerden and swing my 2 swords and get fat loot and level up and go kill everything and ha 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 I have sex with the princess and like I've loathed that. Like I think that's the dumbest thing ever. But there's a whole tons of people who just enjoy playing that. I'm just not going to play with them. That's the only thing.
Exactly. You find the group that fits you as a person.
Find or make. Those require a little patience.
Yes. And I definitely think communication is a big thing that a lot of the RPG community could do better with. And it's important not just in RPGs, but in everyday life. If you can't talk to someone or understand their point of view, you got no business associating with them. And the same holds true in RPGs. If you can't talk to someone and understand where they're coming from, you shouldn't be playing with that person.
Or at least have some humility in the approach. I've benefited a lot from playing with people with different styles than me.
Yeah.
But it's been a very conscious effort. And I think we think too much about the game and too little about the fact that it's humans doing this. That humans have needs. And it's a relational thing.
Exactly.
Despite what, got irony of the social nerd. In fact, this kind of gaming is extremely social. It's even intimate in some ways of burying yourself and expressing and confronting issues greater than that are hard to wrestle with, and the human side is often neglected. And having that be involved in that system design, would also really sell. Well, I don't know about sell well, but at least it would create a more edifying gaming experience. My experience.
Yeah.
So here's a question I actually have for everyone, and I've talked about it a little bit on my channel. I personally use my gaming sessions a lot of times when I'm pondering on how to deal with an issue I'm experiencing in real life, such as when I was younger, I had a really bad anger issue. So I would play a monk who's calm and spiritual. I deal with depression, so I play these happy-go-lucky characters. I play depressed characters.
No, she's just sitting there watching TV.
And I've watched how other players and the DM interact with that.
You see what I'm saying, though, didn't you?
Well, I couldn't really see them. I was coming in, and so they were all out there, and they're not speaking English.
So, I'm curious if any of you guys use RPGs like this also, or to either help work on an issue you're dealing with or trying to do better at.
Yeah, I cut out for a minute, so I have no idea what we're talking about.
And have you ever used role playing to get through an emotional situation? I believe, correct?
Yeah,
No, not
not really. It may not be emotional, but just something you're dealing with, or something you know someone close to you's dealing with.
I think that requires a bit of self-awareness that you can even recognize about yourself problems, see them as problems, and then come to the point that I want to improve this. Those are a lot of steps in human psychology that are not a quick thing for most people to arrive at. It's great if you can. I certainly have done that from time to time. I've used role-playing games to help students. I'm a teacher by trade, to help students deal with socialization issues or improve their ability to work with others or think critically. Gaming can definitely be a variety of things, but it can be very tricky to not go in there and... Yeah, my wife is really naggy, so I'm gonna run a D&D game for her in order to help her not be a nag. Like, you don't necessarily therapeutize other people.
It gets worse.
Yeah, no.
It gets worse. Trust me.
Yeah, I would not suggest using it
Careful.
to show someone else what they're doing. I tend to do it myself more for something I'm going through. Or in case knowing someone who's depressed and suicidal, I might throw in an NPC like that and watch how the players react. So, it gives me some insight on how I might be able to handle that situation in my own life. I definitely wouldn't say use it as a tool to show someone else. Oh.
That's actually a good point. Sorry, I have a little lag on my end.
Well, that's fine then.
that's the same.
But yeah, I was going to say that role-playing games are being, like for example, Cypher System. They've made an initiative to kind of put their game in schools now because it helps teach problem-solving skills to kids, to think creatively, also to work together as a group, and those are important skills for anyone. So I feel like role-playing is a valuable tool for that. And it's getting more recognition as a tool like that, so
Yeah.
I enjoy the way things are going.
It's remarkable. I've seen students with on the autism spectrum, with Asperger's, benefit enormously from having this experience, having a lesson taught. Like we did a role play of the Civil War from the point of view of the British and dealing with the what is it like to have people loathing and hating you. They get some empathy there. It's just been a really remarkable thing.
I know
to have that available.
it's done a lot for me, and I've talked about it on my disabilities in RPG series, including in the video I did about some of the benefits of playing an RPG. But it is really amazing some of the effects it has.
But I think this also has a lot to do too with why nerds kind of began the craft, so to speak. It was a way to be more socially or less socially awkward, to have something to kind of break the ice, so to speak. So, yeah, role-playing games are definitely coming into their own in that way.
Definitely.
I've seen it firsthand. ran a game for 5th graders for 2 years, well, 2 different 5th grade classes, and they were some of the moments in those games were as good as any adults that I've seen play, and the kids there really. Really, I saw marked improvements in some of their academics.
Awesome.
Their understanding of working well with others. It was really a very rewarding experience.
So maybe, since you're a player and haven't really DM'd, and we have a bunch of DMs here, is there something you would like to ask as a player?
Honestly, no, like because at least my husband Steven, he DMs and whatnot, and I picked his brains pretty well. But yeah, I have the general kind of understanding, or at least what preparing a game for people to play in. There's the rule sets and such, and you kind of can also wing things here and there. I think for me, I got okay. Here's a question then. Do any of you get anxious or like have that anxiety of like, well, I remember everything, or what am I going to do if it goes off left wing? And because I don't want to be that one DM who just railroads everyone. Like, those are some of the anxieties that I have about trying to run a game. Like, am I going to be able to remember my stuff? Well, so how do you guys handle that? If you have that?
I have it every session, and I run. No, seriously. Although it's not so much will I remember everything, it's more will my players enjoy what I prepped for them. That's my big one, and that hits me hard before every session. Some ways I handle it, and I play with players I've played with before, so I have a pretty good feeling for what I'll enjoy. I also tend to kind of watch a lot of videos on YouTube to take my mind off it immediately before the session, and as well as inspire me in different areas.
I've run games for 20 years. I do this professionally, and I run games with strangers. I run like 40 hours of games a week, and I am still nervous for many of them. It is just, for a variety of reasons, wanting to do a good job, not being confident in how the campaign will go. It is putting yourself out there. It's like an author sharing their book. It's like a artist sharing their pictures. It's a part of you, and it definitely is a little nervous. There are some things that you can do to help being prepared. Having notes helps me a lot. Thinking through different pieces of the session, how it's going to go, different points in my monsters set up. Do I have the roll 20 done? Being prepped helps a lot, and I listen to some music. I have a specific song I play. I get pumped up, and with those preparations on my end, something else that I like to do is have a player, because I know the rules. I don't care about the rules, but other players sometimes do. So I like to lean on one of them. You're going to be my rules guy, and that way I can administrate the game without having to hear or be nervous about. I'm not really certain on how all this works. I find that helps me a lot. Of course, imagining everyone in their underwear. Not always. The gamer physique does have some hit or miss as far as that goes. But just realizing that they're probably nervous too helps a lot. Time in I was doing theater in high school and college. That was kind of a technique that worked out well. And lastly, just knowing that once it gets underway, you're going to be fine. It's really just before it starts going that the...
Yeah, take the leap.
Yeah, just jump in, and then you're going to be probably pretty good.
See, I go the exact opposite way. I look at it as a rodeo, and you just got to constantly just herd the right cow back into order. Like, you got to cut them out. Like, we got to go this way. We got to go back to this way. Let the players run around the field a little bit, but we got to bring them back home.
By the way, I've got this glitch over here, guys. Are you done?
Glitch stands there and like, seriously? 10,000 years of planning to have you guys bicker and argue over who gets the last gold piece? Seriously.
Okay. How about you? How about you, Mark? Do you still get nervous before a session? And
You talking to me?
Yes.
Yeah.
Okay. Yeah, so I still get nervous before sessions for sure. Yeah, that's just the other day, my last session, I was a little nervous because things were taking an unexpected plot turn. Kind of, that was the finale of the session. Was like, okay, well, you're gonna meet with the big bad, and then make a deal with him, and then so the deal was made, and it was like, oh, well, now what, right? So yeah, a lot of times, what you can do to kind of get around that, what I did to get around that was to kind of think about it as a movie that I want my players to see, and that they would want to see, right? And think about the cues they've been giving me, either before the game, like this happens for me before first session as well, where I look at the cues they've been giving me in terms of like what the character descriptions they have or anything like that. I really look at that and try to mine out the parts that they're really focusing on to give them back what they're wanting to explore in the session. And so if it was crime drama, so they got crime drama, I came up with a cool idea for how to make that interesting. And so, I drew upon familiar references in fiction that I already know, like movies and such. The other thing I do too is to give myself some guidelines so that I have an idea, but not to write the whole story, right? Just present the problems and not necessarily the solutions, but options. Give them options so that that I can bring those in as needed to kind of guide the session if needed. So that'll help a lot too.
Okay.
Yeah.
So,
Cool.
we are going on well over an hour or so. Let's do one last topic, and Andrew, how about you pick one for us?
Alrighty. Let's see. How about creating memorable... I got this question asked last week. Creating memorable characters, NPCs, as a DM. What are some things that you do to make your characters stand out for your players so they don't just for them, gloss them over? Memorable, and so the party is willing to work with them and do things with them.
Well,
Quality
I haven't said a whole
over
lot.
quantity.
go ahead.
I was going to say
think,
that giving your NPCs a little bit of detail and having fewer of them that you really spend the time on, so that you can, have recurring characters really stand out. Oftentimes, when you give a description, you're telling the characters how important that NPC is. So when you say a guy at a shop, that's like saying this guy's unimportant. and you can make them more memorable by giving them mannerisms, or a facial feature, or some kind of maybe a poignant like part of how they talk, an accent, things like that. All those things add to the character, but you don't need all of them. You just kind of have to focus on like one or two, depending on how important you want that NPC to be, and make that memorable. And don't try to throw too much into one NPC.
Okay.
So I think that balance is important.
Definitely.
Words right out of my mouth.
So, Mary, you come up with some really memorable characters. Would you care to share something you do with Gaia, for example?
Well, with all my characters, I try to come up with some kind of quirk, just something that makes them unique in a certain way. Gaia, she probably is the biggest mesh ball of quirks, just because she's my character that was struck by lightning, and I also decided to give her some like Russianish like accent, and so. With being struck by lightning, she is under this delusion that she is her god's champion, and depending on whatever session I'm in, the god changes. Then there's also this chart that I made of just random things, like whether she's mesmerized by her hands, or she can't remember anyone's name, but pretends like she does. And so, yeah, people are fairly entertained with her, just because it's just like she's always proclaiming her god's will, even though it's like, that could just have been coincidental. No, clearly Bahamut has caused this great catastrophe. And it's just like, okay, but
yeah, I
really
enjoy a Gaia's quirk table, because it can change session to session, and so that really helps make it a really unique character also. And I've done something similar with flaws or disabilities, such as playing a mute. But I've never gone into having a table for quirks that change constantly. So I thought that was a very interesting concept.
One of my good friends I've known in years, he had this one character, talking about flaws and stuff. He refused to use normal weapons. Like, he was like the improvised weapon guru. And and for this, we decided, okay, your specialty is you don't have martial weapons training, you have simple weapons training, you have improvised weapons training. And so we would just be like, okay, you have a meat cleaver and a frying pan. That is you're a cook. And he would literally walk around and be like, he's like, I wonder if we can eat this. Like, that was his gimmick, is can we eat this thing? And if so, how can I get it into this plate? And the very first time they ever fought a Naga, this was 3.0, he literally went, time to get me a set of Naga hide boots. And from that point on, it was, can I skin a monster? Can I eat it? And that was the whole character's gimmick, was how can I turn this monster into something I can use? And he had a pet troll that he had grown himself from cutting off a troll's arm and burning the rest of the body. He was like, come on, Fluffy, we gotta go, Fluffy. He kept him in a little cage, and he had this like little micro troll that was growing out of a hand. And so we, as a joke, had this, we bought this model online and cut it down and made a little itty bitty troll attached to the giant troll hand for him. And that was one of our most memorable characters, was, the insane cook who was literally, and the only thing that triggered is her talking about the Russian accent, because I think he stole it straight out of Neverwinter Nights. It's talked like, Minsk and crew, and he's like, I must eat this animal, But there's been some interesting things. Like when I have NPCs, I try to give. If you're talking to him, he's got to have a voice, an accent, something that stands out to make you go, "Hey, that's so and so." And the whole joke in my game is apparently I kind of fall back on one accent for the shopkeeper. So the whole joke is they're all secretly owned by an organization of like-minded merchants. And we used to call them Lucian's Import and Export Exportium. If we don't have it, give us 2 or 3 days. We can find it for you, no questions asked. It was something like that. And it was always a shady elf.
Okay.
So I guess some things keep cropping up in games that make things memorable, and some things are just in my games. People expect things, Like if it's Star Wars, the Rhodian guy who always goes "Koto solo," even though we all know what that means. Everyone's like, "Oh, that's a Rhodian, all right," because he said the famous line that all Rhodians apparently say in every movie.
Okay. So, Preston, how about you? Is there something specific you do to make a character or an NPC stand out?
Well, I try to give a little bit of depth to all the NPCs, but it can be a pretty big task doing that. Usually, it really depends on the campaign. I mean, if everybody's just gonna go around, killing everything, and they're not really focusing on, anything real very important, I'm obviously not going to put as much effort into the story as I would say, if there's an actual task to accomplish. But no, I try to. Usually I'll leave it, I'll just give a basic description of, say, a shopkeeper or a blacksmith, tell them what they're wearing, their basic looks, how they sound. But anything else, I'll leave it to the players themselves to, ask about, say, they don't notice a specific aspect of a person at first. Because, I mean, a player character isn't going to notice every little detail about someone, right when they first meet them. So I try to keep that as a realism factor. So if they want to know more about the person, maybe they have to have a conversation with them or something along those lines.
Okay. How about you, Mark?
I would also add about personality depth for important NPCs, and even sometimes the ones that are like shopkeepers. You might have an idea of what the town wants. So the shopkeepers have a certain goal in mind, and they might be mumbling to themselves about things when the players encounter them. So the things they're saying would reflect their feelings, and if you don't really know what they might feel, then it's hard to roleplay that. But but for important NPCs, it's especially I think necessary to think about their motivation. And a lot of times, I think it's important also to make that at odds with the players in some way, at least some of them, so that they can engage that when they hear the thing that they don't like to hear. As they're talking to the queen and she decides she wants to behead the merchants who wronged her, her royal merchants. It's her motivations might be to show power or something, and that coming across in a very extreme way might provoke interesting play. So I think that's also another way to do it.
Awesome. Another thing I tend to do with almost every NPC is write out a sentence or two of a background for them. It doesn't have to be anything complex, but something to kind of give you a feel for what their motivations are, their personality, where they came from. One of my nobles, that I love using, his family, he was killed by a rival noble house, and he escaped to the wastelands of the north. But throughout his life, he had times where he was an adventurer. He was had times when he learned to sell, to become a thief to survive. I bring that in little ways, such as when a player uses thieves can't at the load or sitting there to try to tell his party something, or have the Lord smile and then say something back to what he said in thieves can't. And then that helps bring those NPCs out a little bit more, because then players will generally ask, well, where did you learn that? Or who's the picture of the lady on the wall that you keep staring at? So that's another little trick I use, and usually I keep it to no more than 2, maybe 3 sentences tops. Well, we had a pretty good DMs panel for our first one ever. I'm glad all of you could join us. Do any of you have any closing thoughts before we sign off there?
I had something, but I think it might take a little bit too long to discuss, so maybe another time.
Yeah, definitely. You guys are more than welcome to sit in any time on the panels. Although I do want to kind of rotate different DMs in and out, but since it's an ongoing thing, there will be plenty of chances to sit in on the panel more than once.
Well, it's nice to meet and talk with you guys. And Yarn, thanks for hosting this and inviting me.
Oh, no problem, Andrew. Oh, it's been too long since we had a good chat.
I love talking gaming. And
I wish I would have had a little bit more to say myself, but overall, yeah, pretty good.
I'm off to play/learn Fantasy Flight Star Wars and their wacky dice.
Awesome.
Enjoy the wacky dice.
I know, it's...
Enjoy.
Hey,
wish you luck.
A friend of mine once said, hey, we made them, we've got to use it somehow.
Awesome.
The dice aren't that hard. I think interpretation will be a good skill that you'll be developing.
Do you like improv? Because that's what you're headed into.
I do, but...
Then, there you go.
Yeah, it's like interpreting what they mean.
It's literally like as a friend of mine said, it's like going to an oracle, looking at the bones and going, okay, this is what it's supposed to do.
Well, take care, everybody, and happy gaming to you all.
You too, Andrew. So, does anyone else have any thoughts they would like to share as we close out?
Well, I do. Remember, if you're going to have fun gaming, it is about having fun in gaming.
Exactly. That's what it's all about.
And remember, just because it's called role-playing, it's spelled R-O-L-E, not R-O-O-L.
So, okay, hey, well, sounds like everyone's pretty happy with how it went, so thank you for those who will be watching this video. And I look forward to reading your comments, and as always, may the dice roll in your favor.